Hey everybody! I just wanted to show you what I've been working on in the past few months, which I'm calling DynoScorpion, which is a bunch of custom features that build upon the DS1 for the primarily for the 4.0 cars, but it can also be made to work on the other DS1 supported cars. So this is not really intended for end consumers. It's more a showcase to maybe potential dealers or people just interested in the platform. So if you're a customer and you just want these things, probably not the video for you, and you could probably contact our resellers, and they can explain the advantages and things to you. But I'm just gonna go over it from a technological standpoint in this video. So we have our patching tool where you can like upload binaries, and you can create your configurations, the features you want of Scorpion, and then you can patch the binary, and you'll get a patched binary, and you'll get the monitors file. This is fully automatic, so we don't you just enter your settings and it will be generated for you. You can see the vehicle is offline now. We have a tool as well where you can connect the vehicle to the internet, and you can actually write straight to RAM, so you can quickly iterate. Takes about 20 seconds to create the binary and flush it into the vehicle. So you can like quickly iterate your settings, like if you're dialing in the launch control or whatever there is. So here up here we have all the features we have sort of categorized. One of the big ones that kind of started the project is launch control. So we can enable the launch control, and then we have like sub settings that they control how it works. So, for example, we have a pedal position that is required to enter launch control, and we can have multiple launch control maps. So you can have like 3 maps, and you can just choose the map when you're stationary. You just choose the map with the cruise control stock. So you can have like different maps for like different grip levels if you have poor tire heat and things like that. It's pretty useful. And you'll see like the launch map you're in on the boost gauge, and if you don't have the boost gauge, because like we have some swapped cars and things that run the software, you can just enable the mill, and it will like flash. If you enter map 1, it will flash the check engine light once. If you enter 2, it will flash it twice, etc. Then we have the timing advance, which is basically a way to set the override the ignition while we're trying to build RPMs. So this is usually done in the initial process just to build out RPMs because you're fighting the torque converter. It's not really useful on the DSG cars, but it's very useful on the ZF cars. So this means you don't actually have to modify your ignition tables at all. You can leave them for your normal driving, and then once you're in the launch control staging, because this will only enter when you're in the launch control, then we'll start overriding things. So yeah, it's gonna build up some RPMs, and each like value is the timing per map. And then we have the ignition retard, which you can use to build boost with. So for example, on this configuration, we set a negative 15-degree absolute timing. We have in beta as well, where you can basically allow it to try to boost target or RPM target, but for now it's fixed value. And we have the start RPM where we're starting to pull timing, and the start RPM is mostly used for like really big turbo cars where basically when you pull like any timing out, like even if you put like a 0-degree timing, it will be so weak that it won't build RPMs. So you can actually use like this sort of configuration here. We have a start RPM, a stop RPM, and a minimum time to be in a retarded state to like jump between the retard, which builds a little bit of boost, and then you'll jump up to the ignition advance, which will build the RPM back up, and then you'll fluctuate between those two states. But that's like mostly single turbo, like really big cars. And we have additional fuel enrichment for cooling off while you're in the retard state. We also have timing reintroduction, which is currently an experimental feature, which is basically to allow really powerful cars to have grip. If you're trying to set like really big times, will basically you can set up a curve where it will go from the release state into the normal ignition table at a fixed release rate, basically. So you can actually maintain boost, maintain all of these things, and have it like in a very, very nice and gradual power delivery from start. We also have support for overriding the wastegate, so you don't have to modify the wastegates tables at all. So like when you're in the staging, you can put this to like 100%. So this means that the duty cycle will be set to 100% wastegate up until the point where you are this close to the boost target, and then we'll go back to the normal pin system just to reach the boost a little bit faster. Um, we also have RPM limiters. Um, this is useful for most cars that aren't that, because most cars you can't control with just the timing unless you pull a shit ton of timing. But usually we don't do that. Usually about 15 degrees is pretty good for building boost. So in that case, you'll actually set on the timing retard, and we will set up usually an ignition cut rev limiter, so like the RPMs you want to launch with. So here you can see we have all these tables. So this is each launch map. So launch map 0 will have 2500 RPM launch, and then so on, which works very well. And then you can enable staging mill, which just means that once you're um, once you're staging the car for launch, or while the launch control is active, will flash the check engine light. Also have an anti-lag system, which is quite neat. Problems I had with the DS1 anti-lag system was that it pulled a ton of timing, and this actually caused me to get a manifold backfire once. I believe that was the cause, anyways, but I'm not certain. Um, but yeah, it pulls a lot of excess timing because it's using the ignition timing to try to hold the vehicle speed back, and while also doing that, it will build boost. But the boost is not controlled. It's not really done in a controlled matter. So I also got a lot of overboost conditions if I sat in the launch control for too long, or sorry, the anti-lag. So you basically had to time how long you were in the anti-lag system um, before it uh, before you release it, and it will to get like a semi-good anti-lag. So and also like I didn't like that, if you just move the cruise control down, it would like activate it. So if you're just trying to change your speed on the highway, it would flash the engine light and stuff. I didn't like that, so I made a custom one, which I think is a lot better. So here we have like the conditions to enter it. So this is like really nice because it prevents this accidental entry where you'll actually have to be on the pedal. So what you usually do is you'll push the cruise control down, and then nothing will happen. Car will be normal, and then you floor it. And when you floor it, that's when we activate it, basically. We have some protection like activation time and activation cooldown, things like that. And this doesn't rely on like a map 9, so you can do whatever you want with map 9. We don't use any of that. All of this is like fully custom. And what we do to hold these engine speed back, because we don't do that with the ignition timing. We actually hold the engine/vehicle speed with an ignition or a fuel cut. So the fuel cut works okay. I'm not personally using it because I run a non-catted setup where um, with port injection. So ignition cut works very well for me. Uh, so I don't want like a lean condition where I cut the DI and keep spraying PI into it. So that's how we hold the engine speed back. And to build boost, we actually have a linear function instead. We basically have a gain, which is amount of degrees to pull out, amount of timing to pull out per hectopascal of boost deviation. So what that means is you'll actually get a really nice curve where the boost deviation will shrink and the ignition timing will go up. So you don't have like excess ignition timing, and you don't cause excess EGTs and things like that, which works incredibly well. Um, and you can have your offset, which is like the minimum amount of timing and things like that. So like this setup usually works fine. We just put like 20 degrees, and even that is like not even necessary. It's more because you want to just spool fast in the beginning to start growing up, especially on like the really big turbos. And we have another feature which is really really nice, which is auto launch, which means that the normally on the anti-lag rolling anti-lag on DS1, you'll have to release the cruise stock and the car goes. We have auto launch where it will actually auto deactivate the rolling anti-lag and start hitting when we're this close to the boost target. So it'll basically do an optimal rolling anti-lag every time. And the way it's set up here is we actually have you activate anti-lag on cruise up or and down, but you only activate auto launch on stock up. So if you move the cruise stock down, you get the normal thing where you'll have to release it, and if you move it up, you get the auto launch. So you get both. And then we have fuel enrichment as well, which is basically when you're in the anti-lag to try to cool things down a little bit. I'll move down to the next big feature, which is the watchdog system, which basically a fully custom safety system that I think every car should have. It's super good, and it can save your motor for sure. So once you activate it, you basically have all of these triggers, which is what you want to trigger on. So usually I run like the short-term fuel trims I monitor, and to enable that, I want rich mixture detection. You might not want that, but especially a lean mixture condition, where if the lambda goes, or not the lambda, sorry, the short-term fuel trims run off to 20% off, 20% too lean, this will trigger. And then you can also, for each thing, you can set up the minimum time. So, for example, if you have like a low pressure fuel pump monitor, you might like allow it to be outside of spec for this amount of time before we trigger, because it's not like you can have dips and things, especially with like knock and certain volatile things. But for trims, I have it set to 0. So as soon as it sees a trim that is running out, then we trigger. We also have the relative load, which is the relative load when this is monitoring. So at 250, it will basically, that's a bit high, but you'd probably set it to like 200 something, where it's like, it's only on wide open that we actually monitor this because the conditions are very different at normal driving. We also have limp mode, so there's like the action to do. We have two actions to do when one triggers. We have the check engine light, so this will start like flashing when it has detected a problem. And you can also set up the limp mode where it will limit the load to this um, when something happens. So basically, that will cause like a throttle closure and hopefully save your engine because you might not react fast enough on the check engine light. So once we have that active, we can actually go down and set up, yeah, when this triggers, we actually want to limp the car. Um, and yeah, you have overboost, individual cylinder knock, average knock, high pressure fuel pump, low pressure fuel pump, things like that. So you can have, um, yeah, monitor all these things, and especially like the trims, you can, especially on the really high powered cars, can very easily save your engine. Also have the safe idle, which is like a ghost. What do they call it? They call it like ghost immobilizer. It's where you can put the vehicle into a state where um, you can park up the car and you put it into a specific state with like a cruise control sequence. And if you put the car in drive, it will just kill the motor, um, and so you can't like take off with the vehicle until you do that sequence again. And this will like be indicated with the engine light, so you know that it's in that mode and things like that. So yeah, you can like park the car up and not risk having it stolen, because at least on the C7s you can't like lock them when the engine is running, which is kind of annoying. We also have supplemental fuel stuff, which works very well and integrates with our partners' products. We have a custom traction control. This whole thing is very experimental. The goal of it is to assist the launch control primarily, where we can actually keep the throttle fully open while still limiting power efficiently with regards to the slip of the car. So this is an addition. It's basically a complement to this. So the timing reintroduction is basically a feed-forward calibration of how much grip you think you'll have, and then if you actually have more slip than that, the traction controller will step in. So we have the slip calculation because it's an all-wheel drive car. It's not super easy to detect exactly how much you're slipping, but I've made a few algorithms that I've ran and tested and to find out what works well. And the best one I've found is like largest difference. They all work pretty well except the OEM stuff, because that is like trash because it reacts way too slow and the recovery rates are too slow. So the largest difference just compares the wheel speed between the fastest and the slowest wheel, and that works pretty well. It reacts very fast, and it recovers extremely fast also. So that works very well. The only downside to this sort of approach is like it's kind of hard to know exactly how much you're slipping, but it's very good at detecting slip up to a specific point. So you'll have to kind of deal with the scalings that entails. And to actually do the to pull the power down, we just do ignition retard, and we have some other things as well. And the reason for that is we want to keep the throttle open and keep the car running well. So once you enable that, you basically have the minimum ignition that we're allowed to run. We have a slip offset, which is basically uh, when to start activating the ignition retard. And then you have a gain of how much ignition you want to pull per unit of slip, which is like it says kilometers an hour, but I mean it's an arbitrary unit at that point, right? And then we have a wastegate reduction factor of a percent per degree of timing we pull out in order to prevent overboost conditions. We also have an ignition cut, which can help you at very high slip rates. So like if it's like a snow type condition where you're basically standing completely still and you're like at the minimum timing already, then we can start ignition cutting until we get into the reasonable range where this can take over again. Also have a shift prevention, which can help you not shift the car while you're at very high slip rates. So if you're at very high slip rates, then we'll basically set an arbitrary rev limiter until you go below that. So that, for example, if you launch the car in the first gear, then you won't just slam into second with a bunch of wheel spin because there's no real point in that. So we'll actually hit a hard rev limiter until you're back below like a reasonable slip rate again, and then we'll continue doing the normal stuff, and you're allowed to enter next gear. We also have something called calibration plus. This is like custom features that are not really features, but more like extensions of the calibration. There's a lot more in the works and more that are being tested. So that's why they're not here. But I want to talk about at least two of them. The first one is wastegate per gear, which is useful for like +4 type cars where we've seen the load climb with the gear. So when you're in like seventh gear and going incredibly fast, you'll start overboosting unless you make it underboost on the lower gear. So we basically add a correction factor per gear to be able to fight that and try to keep the car boosting well at every gear. We also have the DI fuel cut system, which has been like a game changer for everyone running this sort of thing. Um, so when the DI cuts, it's quite aggressive, and it does that in shifts. It does it when you release like to prevent like after you've released the accelerator, it will usually do the pops and bangs from factory, and then it will cut off the injectors and just run without fuel in the engine to diesel the car. And the one in shift specifically, which is the torque reduction that comes from the gearbox, it very problematic for cars running port injection and for methanol cars, where we've seen lean conditions and which basically the fix has been to AMAX the cars. And that is very harsh on the gearbox, especially in the like over 1,000 horsepower range. It's very rough on the stock gearbox. Um, so you can set up like for meth cars, you can set up at a specific boost threshold. We override and don't allow it to cut the fuel, causing lean conditions. And I actually run a fully disabled fuel cut, which means it's always the injector's always going to be firing, which means it's a little bit less harsh diesel, and also you get way better shifts, especially when you're not in the sport mode where it actually pulls a lot of timing in the torque reduction, which is very completely transforms the car. We should actually get very crisp, but still very torque reduced shifts. Um, so yeah, definitely something to try. So yeah, this is some of the features that we're running right now, and this is what's offered right now. And I'm always working on more things and testing things and refining things, and there's a lot of things in the works. But yeah, I just wanted to showcase this if anyone is interested. Um, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you.